While the undersecretary couldn't make it, we do definitely appreciate his support. So, they talked about us hitting the century mark and us hitting those metrics. I wouldn't be able to do that, and the MBDA wouldn't be able to do that without the team that supported us. So I want to make sure that we thank Christine Reed, our program manager, Harold Blackwell, our finance and debt capital, and Gary Stifler. I messed up your name, sorry, Gary. Scheffler, who helps us with MBE growth. So thank you all. I'd also like to thank the MBE sitting up here with us. We couldn't do our job without them. So again, thank you guys as well. I thank you all for coming. And for those of you who had the pleasure of staying with us overnight, there's definitely a lot of coffee in the back, So I want to just take the time to let our folks introduce themselves, kind of talk about their story, and then we'll get into kind of a open discussion, a chat around what we've done, how we've been able to do it, and what we can do for you guys as well. So without further ado, Anthony Richardson. There's a microphone right there.
Thank you, Gudani. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anthony Richardson, owner of Spellman Logistics, based in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. We're a freight and small parcel shipping organization, 3PL. So I think I'm now going on 2 years since joining MBDA and Greater New England as a whole. And the premise in that case was just really to find a mentorship to both, and I'll bifurcate, to grow my current operation, but also focusing on development, the acquisition of other businesses I'm looking to acquire. And I had some great mentors in prior life. One has passed away more recently, and they're all small business owners. And having those relationships are so important because they live and breathe the real life of what small business owners live. So I found this group, and it's been going on 2 years now. And again, shout outs to Gary Seffler, Harold, Christine, Kadani, Peter for just being supportive, because they become like an ex officio to my organization, to myself. And I'll say, again, a shout out to Gary, who's my mentor. It's also aspirational, meaning I plan and hope and will become a mentor the same way Gary is to me. So when I'm his age, he just turned 40, he's young. I want to be like, it gave me aspirations to be the same way in that method. So I'm looking forward to it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rafi Zahir. I'm the CEO of MBDA Industries. It's actually my second company that I started. My first company was in 2010. It was medical equipment and orthopedic soft goods. And what we did was we build insurances for all direct home delivery items, beds, hospital beds, wheelchairs, commodes, all the orthopedic soft goods, and so on. So in that business, you could be the guy behind the scenes, right? Because your payer was the insurance company, right? And the referrals really, they came from the insurances. And so fast forward, I sold that company back in 2020. And, in 2016, I started working on this second company, which was MBDA Industries. And I started working on this because I wanted to actually start manufacturing the items that we were billing to the insurance companies, right? The walkers, the canes, the crutches, the hospital beds, and commodity goods. We wanted to now get into the manufacturing side. So on this side, there was a lot more networking that was involved, right? You have to be front facing, you have to go to these events, you can't be the guy behind the scenes, right? And I have always been the guy that sits behind the scenes, right? I like making plans and problem solving. So, I got an opportunity at the former supply chain director at Boston Children's Hospital at the time. She was now leaving from St. Francis Hospital up to go to Boston Children's. And so she calls me up and she puts me in contact with someone by the name of Jerry Epps, right? And I'm like, he's in the supplier diversity role. And I'm like, who is this, right? So she's like, he's the supplier diversity guy, and he starts telling me, hey, you got to start attending these events. He tells me about the GNE MSDC, and that's when I first found out about the GNE MSDC, right? And so we start going through the paperwork, the process to get registered, and I'm learning about, what the Greater New England Minority Supplier Diversity Council does, and it takes us 2 to 3 years to get registered, and then fast forward, we start working now with Kadane, and again, we get to attend these events like CVS that we were at last week. We get to work with local minority businesses like SAI. Mark sitting in the room. He was just at our office. We were brainstorming for 3 hours yesterday, So all these experiences, they've been great. And yeah.
Morning, everyone. My name is Devin Fitzgerald. I'm the founding principal of RML Service Group. We are an investment group that invests in and acquires healthcare service businesses. We look to revitalize them. Basically, sellers who have maybe reached the end of their rope or reached all their goals, looking to offload their businesses. We are happy to come in. We're not going to try and fix what isn't broken, but where we can add some value, that's where we shine. So it's been terrific. My experience with the MBDA has been outstanding. I got in contact with them almost 2 years ago, November 5th, 2022. And it was working on my first acquisition. Ran into some speed bumps or Mount Everest, depending how you look at it. But there was some friction there. So my first interaction was really set the basis for the entire relationship, which I can't overstate how supportive they are, how innovative they are and creative they are. As an individual and even with the team, we're kind of limited on our bandwidth or kind of how far we're able to think about things. We bring in another group like the MBDA. They've all been really terrific, bringing different ideas, making outstanding connections, for financing with lenders, with vendors, and of course, hosting great events like this. So again, can't really overstate how impactful they've been, how happy I am and fortunate I feel to have the relationship that I do with them, and really looking forward to growing with them.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Kevin Porter. I'm one of the owners and founders of KT&T Distributors. Anthony Dakotas is out there, my partner. Get to know him, say hello. We've been in business for about 20 years. Known the GNMSDC and then Kadani and Gary Stifler for the last 4 or 5 years. But before that, we've kind of grown up with GNMSDC and MBDA. They've been an immense help for us. We're in the sustainability business. We're an electrical contractor and a distributor. We come from the energy efficiency space, and we've worked with a lot of companies and a lot of companies in this room doing energy efficiency and sustainability projects. We've benefited from the MBDA and the GNMSDC. We've worked with CVS, with different trainings that have helped our company grow. Think of me and Tony as serial entrepreneurs, and we're probably a Fortune 150,000 company in the room with all these Fortune 100s. So the help that we get from Kadani, the latest help is working on our e-commerce platform and being able to kind of join this century and move forward in that space by being able to offer our products to companies like yourself via e-commerce. So Kadani's been really instrumental in helping us because I'm still working off the original calculator. So he's been a massive help in getting us partnered up and moving forward in that area. So, and Peter, thank you. This has been a great journey. So thank you.
Thank you guys for the introduction. Appreciate it. So, the MBDA's charge is to make sure that we create opportunity for you all, right? And that you're successful. But that success, what that looks like, it isn't necessarily what you would think. It's not, hey, we're gonna go to our private corporations and sell to them. Although we love you guys and we want to sell to you guys, that's not where the majority of the money comes from, right? The majority of MBE revenue comes from commerce between other MBEs, right? So that's something that we at the MBDA often try to push and pull for when working with MBEs, understanding that you working with each other creates the ecosystem, creates the power, and creates the finance and revenue that drives the business forward. And with that being said, Raf, quick question, man. And please, I'd like this to be interactive. So if you guys have any questions, Q&A, we're going to do that on the spot. So whenever you guys feel like it, please feel free to ask some questions. But Raf, first question for you. How is partnering with other MBEs unlocked opportunity for you?
Is this on?
There we go.
Okay. So it's interesting because I think at the time that I met Kadani, it's been about a year and a half-ish, I'd say, right? And so the first few calls that we had with Kadani, it seemed to me like he was interviewing us, like he was getting to know us, getting to see what we were about, the questions that he was asking. And part of why I thought he was doing that at that time was, he wanted to kind of see, hey, well, where do I want to put these guys? Who do I want to put them in contact with, So he starts us off and introduces us to some of the smaller minority businesses that, they have some good relationships, that they have some opportunities with, And I think, me, Pat, Kevin, we're talking about our sales strategy in the office, right? And we're like, hey, how do we handle this, right? So there's a minority-owned company, another one right in Massachusetts. They have some good relationships, and they needed some supports we have a kitting division. So in our kitting division, we have about 35 employees that just build kits, right? So it's line workers that literally it's primarily in the lab space, right? But he has an opportunity with the state of Massachusetts to win it's a PPE kit, right? So Kadane introduces us to him, and we provide that support. He ends up winning that kit. That opportunity with the state of Massachusetts. And, we go to Kadane, we're like, hey, and you could just see the joy on his face. He's like, what? It worked? And we're like, yeah, it worked. He won the kit. We were able to do it. And then, after that, Kadane's like, all right, well, hold on, I got to come down, So next day, he calls me up. He's like, I'm coming down there to your office, right? Drives over to Connecticut, and now he wants to see the rest of our operation, right? And he has all these other ideas after that, right? And he's calling, he's texting, he has a weekly call set up with us. And, he just keeps connecting us with more and more different folks, and smaller MBEs. He's going to Yale on our behalf, I'm like, he's telling me after the fact, like, hey, I'm doing this too, And he's making a case for something that he believes, he believes in Mezzo. And that's what I actually very much appreciate about Kadane, and that's part of the reason I wanted to join this panel, is to tell every organization has a face, and the face that we see is Kadane for the MBDA. And what he's done is absolutely remarkable. So,
appreciate that, man. Thank you. Anthony, same question.
Sure. So, at least in the logistics space, folks had to move things, and that does come up. So, I would say the opportunity to cross-pollinate with other MBEs certainly exists, and it's happening more recently. I actually just met Rafi about 3 weeks ago at a CVS event, and he's moving goods from tri-state area to Connecticut. So there's opportunities there. Again, saying the same vein of that, Kadani is the face. The same event, he met some other folks that needed support that are doing grocery and other goods out of Florida. So there's always this representation that's taking place, and we're able to find and network with and cross-pollinate as needed.
Appreciate that. So Devin, we've been working together for a little while. Sometimes when we're talking about MBE growth, sometimes that looks like acquisition, right? So Devin, quick question for you. What are you looking for when you talk about acquisition? When you're looking for a company to acquire, what are some of the things you're looking for? What kind of makes a good use case for that?
It's really two main things. The numbers got to work. Obviously, the deal's got to pencil. It has to be a profitable business. I guess three things. Profitable business, the regulatory has to be all set, the legal and regulatory. We've been looking at home health care businesses recently in Massachusetts, and it's like the Wild West. So you have to do really good due diligence with those deals. And then secondly, we just want a culture that we can make an impact with. And the acquisition we made last year, we inherited a couple office managers, and in 4 years, every day probably looked exactly the same for them. They just really came in and ran the processes they were supposed to run to keep the business operational. But there was no real enthusiasm or excitement for growth, no opportunity for those folks to kind of bring creativity to the table, and to really unleash their intellectual capabilities. So I think it's like a wonderful thing to be able to provide that opportunity and create value for folks that we end up getting to work with on that level. So again, if a business has good numbers, their legal is all set, then it's likely something we can work with. Of course, every rose has its thorns, right? There's always going to be, basically when you acquire a business, you're acquiring someone else's problem that they don't choose to deal with anymore. But that's exactly where the opportunity lies.
Thank you. So, I've been working with Devin, like we said, for about 2 years, and, he has a unique story. He's, before he ever, and he's way too humble to talk about it, so I'm gonna talk about it for him. I'm gonna have to be his hype man, as I'll be each and every one of your hype men in the room if need be. He has a great story. I want you to tell these folks a little bit about the board and how you came up with that, and an RML and your dream and how it all came true, man.
Always happy to talk about dreams. So I think basically the axiom I began with, probably for life itself, but certainly for businesses, begin with the end in mind. Right now I'm working on like a 40-year plan. I'm 38 now, so I'm trying to kind of envision what life's going to look like when I'm 78. So before I even kind of got in the game, more or less, the first step was to create a board of directors of folks that I could surround myself with to give myself a little credibility, to learn from, to utilize their network, and also, really the credibility was the major thing. I came from, the restaurant industry into the healthcare industry. I'm not trained in healthcare. I have an understanding of how businesses work on a fundamental level. I know the industry's growing. So I kind of started off with, limited knowledge, we'll say. So really, I knew my first step was to surround myself with folks who had much more knowledge than I did, that could fill in my blind spots and give the organization kind of a 360-degree field of vision for what we're trying to do. So it was really an exercise in sales almost. It was cold calling folks across investment and healthcare industries to see who could believe in my dream and who wanted to get on board and take this ride. So, we have a president of a local hospital on the board, a managing director of a healthcare investment bank on the board, and then a gentleman who he bought a single home healthcare company, grew it over 10 years, 3x the top and bottom lines, and then sold that company to a PE firm, and then ran their portfolio of companies in Florida. So pretty good spectrum of experience there. So currently we're kind of in the small business market now. Of course, the end is not the small business market. The end is be the biggest healthcare investment company in the world. And so we have to, put folks in there who have the experience and the skills, but really the key for me is the enthusiasm, right? The virtues, the values. How in it to win it are folks? How excited are they to improve what they do every day? Personally and professionally, ultimately, because I think you can't really separate the two as a business owner. And if you want to do great things, you got to do great things across the board. Building the board was terrific. It's pretty funny looking back. That started in 2021 is when I began that. And so I was more or less a different person back then. It's been a few lifetimes in the past couple 3 years, but it's been really a terrific journey so far. Constantly learning every day. It's been a great feeling to prove to these folks who took a chance on me and joined the board that, I can do what I say I'm going to do. And I don't, they understand, I think, intellectually what I want to do, but I'm happy to prove it and really bring home the bacon at the end of the day. That's a great feeling. But yeah, I encourage everyone, begin with the end in mind. That really is what can separate you from, the large majority of folks in the game.
Appreciate it. So, I think the reason I'm so impressed with Devin, and one of the reasons why I wanted that story to get out, is simply because I think as MBEs, what we'll find is a lot of us have blind spots, right? We don't know what we don't know. And taking the opportunity to surround yourself with folks who may be experts in that field, it's not easy, right? And it's not easy letting someone else kind of, you stepping back and saying, hey, you know more than me, right? A lot of us are prideful, especially our MBs, we're entrepreneurs, right? So our headspace is, hey, we got this, we can do it, right? So taking the opportunity to seek counsel and seek advice is something that I would recommend to you all, right? So leverage our resources. And I say all that because we at the MBDA, we have those resources for you. So whether it be, hey, we need an accountant, we'll parachute an accountant for you. If you need a fractional CFO, we'll provide those services for you as well. So, don't be afraid to ask questions, and, hopefully we'll be able to answer them and create opportunity for you where there may be blind spots. My man, Kevin. So Kevin and I, we have this great relationship. We go back and forth, man. This guy is like the big brother I never wanted, always trying to bully me. Right? I'm like, man, I'm big too, bro. You can't be trying to bully me all the time. But here he is, right, trying to bully me all the time. But I really want you to touch base a little bit more on what we're doing with you guys in terms of the e-commerce side, because what I think is important about that is it allows these manufacturers who want to be in the space, who want to buy from DBEs, from minority-owned businesses. So let me rewind. So what we're doing with KT&T is, for instance, a manufacturer like Grainger, right? You all purchase from Grainger. You all want to make sure you hit your diverse spend, right? That's important to you all. What we're doing with Kevin, and this is a pilot program, is we're actually making it easy for you to go on Grainger's website, be able to select, I want to work with a DBE, get a list of DBEs from Grainger, and then start purchasing through their website, going directly into their shopping cart, and you're able to capture that spend, right? So those are the kind of things and innovation that we talk about at the MBDA, that we try to come up with at the MBDA to help you not just grow your business, but for your business to thrive, and for you all to help kind of meet your goals as well.
That was awesome, Kanani. He said it. No.
Every now and then you got to be the hype man for him, right?
No, thank you. And this has been a great journey, and it will help us become a much larger distributor by right now leveraging the products that we can offer to companies like you through that Grainger website. We're also working with MSC, and we're going to be working with Fastenal as well. So the catalog of products that we can offer this way is just going to be immense. The end goal of this, so we're on several state contracts. We're on a state contract here in Mass, FAC 124, and then the trade contract. So how this is all going to tie in together, right? So we were able to offer these products to you now, but then once we prove out what we're doing here with the e-commerce platform, we can go on the state platform, and then there's MBE set-asides and goals there as well. So those two steps will take us once again from Fortune 150 million up to Fortune 150,000, right? So this is game changing for KT&T, right? So now we've come and participated in things like this with companies like yourselves before. Now we have something that we can offer to you. And you can go right on that website, your facilities, all different people can use us, and we become more visible to you in this space. And Kanani and Gary, thank you again. Been great helping us get there. All the different steps to setting up the platform, to working with Provision Connect and doing these different partners. So it's been a great experience, and so thank you.
Appreciate that.
Look out for me later, though.
Told y'all, you're always trying to bully me. So with that being said, I'd like to open it up to Q&A. If you guys have any questions, we'd love to provide some answers. No? No? Okay. There we go.
I have a question for you.
My name is Santosh Sati. I am owner of Unique Systems Skills. So I just wanted to ask you a question that how long this process takes place until we get the revenue? Everybody's experience, tell me, please. When you work with MBDA on anything, what are the steps and how long it takes? Timeline or any kind of a milestone, so we have some kind of idea of what to expect.
I can take that. I think Donnie and I actually had this discussion a couple times. What you put in is what you get out. Building the relationships, and I see obviously all the value in the world, but it's also the innovation that you provide as a company. Being a minority business owner, it should be an add-on, right? But what are you doing as an organization, and what are the things that you can bring to the table? One of the things that we look at when we're developing some of the products, is we were now entering into like the nitrile glove market, and we had to be a little different, not just because of the diversity piece, right? But our price points had to be in line with the big players because the hospitals, they're not going to pay more money, right? But what else could we do to make it different, right? We added an ingredient to make ours biodegradable. That product and the visibility that we've had in how many healthcare systems that product's gone into, all of Hartford Healthcare is purchasing it. We have Boston Children's purchasing. We have LabCorp, like some of the biggest customers in the country purchasing some of these products. But it was that we had an opportunity to get in the front because of organizations like MBDA. But what are we doing as minority business owners to be different? There's also a network within the minority businesses as to what Kadane always pushes. How can minority businesses work together to increase the volumes, right? The more minority companies that we're selling our products to, it helps us with our buying power, right? Which then helps us leverage lower and lower price points. So what we're trying to do is just push more product through volume instances out. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
So how long does it take to get for you?
I was looking for the timeline.
Yesterday. No. No, so
We are in the business, we need the timeline, right?
I get it, and I understand. So
Well, I was going to add to it, Satosh. So I also think it depends on, in taking a thought as well, about the end goal. Revenue is one thing. Partnership and cultivation and understanding is also just as important. So I would say, and as I sit here as well with the team here, and I forgot to mention, I'm meeting, Kevin the first time today, and he has some consulting needs. So like there's needs that pop up at any given time. And even Devin, we actually met earlier this year, and it was kind of, a meeting of the mind to say, okay, Anthony's trying to acquire these companies that are some are non-logistics, and leveraging that approach of the board of folks that are in that space. So again, I would say it depends. Revenue is one measurement, one KPI, but building an army of stakeholders that you probably didn't have before is priceless. So revenue is important, but timelines and revenue are secondary to building that partnership in that group.
appreciate that. So just to add on just a little bit to that. So what I would say is, we're ready to get to work whenever you are. The revenue is going to come as we develop the relationships, like these folks said, as we make our introductions. So we like to be proactive. So as proactive as you are and as intense as you'll be, we'll meet you there and we'll all get to the goal eventually. Right.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Dominic.
Dominic Ferrari, I head supply diversity for Alkermes Pharmaceuticals. So I just attended a conference in California where I met someone who talked about their relationship with Fastenal, and Fastenal is actually promoting corporates to say, spend more with diverse suppliers that are our platinum level distributors, if you will, like what you're doing with Grainger. And I'm just curious, have you heard of other major corporations that are trying to promote this type of cross-fertilization?
I haven't, not a lot, but I think as we kind of prove this thing out, as we build it, what they say, like if you build it, they will come. I think as we build this thing out, you'll see that more people adopt it.
What about CBS?
I just-
Spending, $1 billion club.
Next question.
Wait, Kadani, I just have to speak to them. Kadani, I have to speak to him for 1 second.
Just go ahead.
I'm going to talk to you as soon as we finish here because I have a meeting with Fastenal for this same thing that we're doing. So, yes, they're here. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I have a question. Martha Crawford, Sikorsky, a Lockheed Martin company. So we have a large tool crib in our facility in Stratford, Connecticut, and that's a whole other story. But the idea of your partnership with Grainger is somewhat intriguing, and so I'd like to see how that progresses. We have a third party that manages the tool crib, and so they have staff on site. And so I don't know if that's something that's scalable for you at this stage, or is that where you see yourself in the future?
So I think it's kind of a blend of both things. As the third party that you have there might purchase some of the stuff for the tool crib
Right.
from us. And then as we grow, we could become
Okay.
that third party company. So that first step is one that I would love to take with you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Hi, everybody. Joyce Eggers from Decatur Pharmaceuticals. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands the value of the MBDA. I've had suppliers that I've brought to Kadani. I had one recently, and we have more to come. And the value here is that when you're a supplier and you want to figure out how to get your company to the next level, you know all of the finances stuff, you're kind of ready. This is a resource because this is a resource for the financing. This is a resource, this is your connection. And I think that's what all of these guys have said. This is your connection through Greater New England and the MBDA to make further connections. And it does take time. It takes time and energy. But what you have is you've got a co-pilot who brings you along and helps you make those connections. But it ends up being a lasting relationship. So it's not a one and done. I did this little program and life is good. This is growing your company and making an investment in relationships. And I just wanted to bring that up.
Appreciate you. Go ahead. Oh, you go on. You were next. Go ahead.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Michael Vaughn from Interactive. I'm wondering, many of you folks are 8A certified, consider that as a SBA program. I go to a lot of conferences, events, the Department of Energy, and the numbers of minor MBEs that are 8A certified that have done very, very well is very impressive. My understanding is that in the greater Boston area, New England, there are very few 8A firms, whereas in Washington, D.C., there's over 1,000 firms. Can you speak to that?
No.
I can. So we are in the last round of our 8A certification. Let me bring it back to the MBDA and Greater New England sometimes we try to shoot and do so many things, but 8A is one of the things that we are going to be focused on finishing here, hopefully, in the next month. It's been a 2-year process.
Right, and I understand that it is challenging, but if you look at the numbers, the greater Washington, D.C. area, there's over 1,000 8A firms. Greater New England area, probably. Right. It's remarkable.
So what I will say is this: we partner closely with the SBA. If that's something that an MBE wants to take advantage of, we're happy to leverage our resource and our relationship with the MBA with the SBA to make sure that you have the connection and the resources that you need to get 8A certified if that's what you choose to do. Go ahead.
So two-part question. My name is Dre Eaton. No one in here knows me.
I know you. You my golf buddy.
And one question is, if I've been signed on with the MBDA and I haven't taken advantage of it, but I'm closer to New York and they also have an office. So if I sign on with you, can I also use the resources that are in New York? That's number one. And then number two, as you know, the SBA is trying to streamline that whole thing with certification on 8A, co-zone, women-owned, et cetera. And I guess within like another 3 months, you should have it solidified. Is that something you'd be able to help small businesses do to get to the next level? Because I'm HubZone, and and at this point, as old as my company is, I should be able to do 8A certification and finally have a real company before I leave this earth.
So what I would say is 1,000% you can work with the Massachusetts, New England MBDA and New York's MBDA. Like there's no distinction, there's no line that prevents us from or prevents you from working with both. I'm sorry, what was your second question?
And then also with what's going on with SBA streamlining everything, would you be able to provide assistance with applying to become like women certified through SBA, 8A, and also HubZone?
Yeah, again, we can definitely leverage our relationship there to make any introductions that you need in order to pursue those certifications. We don't certify anyone, right? MBDA, G&E does do the MBE certification. So again, if you are looking for a different designation, we're happy to make those introductions as well. Any other questions? Oh.
I just want to know if you guys are having fun. I just want to know if you guys are having fun.
Oh, I'm definitely having fun, man. I'm usually higher energy. It's just we didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I'm sorry. Who else had a question?
Good morning. So my name is Brittany and I work for Waste Management. As a corporation, so we're a large corporation. We have about 50,000 employees, and our company as a whole, there's a huge focus on transitioning our spend to diverse suppliers. A ton of benefits, I mean, obviously social responsibility, but personally, I've onboarded quite a few smaller certified businesses, and they're by far my favorite suppliers to work with. Just the quality of work that we get is tremendous. My question though is, being a company as large as ours, one of the struggles is we want to work with some of these smaller businesses, but we of course have to consider the scalability and just their overall capacity. So from a corporation standpoint, what can we do to support the smaller businesses so that you guys can grow along with us and it can be more of a partnership?
Do you guys want to answer that?
Thanks, Brittany, for the question. So I would say it all depends. Stepping up in a step scale is always appropriate. So whether it's a regional need that's broken down in pieces by state, by county, and really interactively planning together. It can't just be always the one and done RFP that's done at January 1st and then coming back to it. In many cases, an iterative approach is needed to scale. I think about a larger client we work with, and we're looking out 13 weeks all year long. We're scheduling with them accordingly to volume. So as long as there's a step path approach, whether it's tackling state, county, or region, at least for us in logistics, that works for us, and we can scale as needed. You can't always turn the switch on day one, but if it's a ramp up time, it works.
Just to add to that, what I'd like to say is if you could introduce some of those MBEs to us, at the MBDA, we'd be happy to help them increase capacity and grow in size. And as they grow, their revenue and their business with you can grow as well. So, I mean, that's our business. That's our charge, right? Is to help them grow and make sure that they're getting everything they need and you're getting everything you need as we grow this relationship.
Hello, my name's Richard. I work for a larger firm. We use a lot of MBDA. I just have questions about the mergers and acquisitions. Such a cool topic. Made me think. It's all private companies. You're going to sell your small company to somebody else, private equity. It's kind of a secret until it happens. They're not to talk about it. And so sometimes, like the last couple of years, a year or so, we'll see one of our suppliers. They'll announce, or we'll see the press release. We just got acquired by private equity. It's like, oh man, because we used to count on that diverse spend, for example. Do you happen to know, and ask the leadership, is there like a grace period that we can still keep counting? Or is it end, like say on November 1st, they got acquired, and now we've got to shuffle and look at the list of how we backfill that diverse spend? Is there a grace period, do you know? Or I just
Yeah, come on up here, big guy.
So the answer is not really, but let me share that you can help us take this another direction. Every year, non-diverse owners are facing retirement age, but the kids don't want to take over the business. So if you can identify those situations, let us know, and we can find either an existing MBE, a minority investor group, a minority management team. We have several minority certified private equity funds. We can expand the number of minority-owned businesses exponentially, and we can do it in like a couple of years. So again, the bad news is the answer is no, but the good news is you can be the source. All of our corporate partners, you can be the source for opportunities to change the space incredibly.
Well said, Peter, well said.
So, Donnie, I just wanted to go back to her question in the back too, because I wanted to add, it's interesting because many times in the hospitals, one of the things that happens to smaller suppliers is that we get boxed out of current opportunities because other spend gets affected because we don't have a full product line of 15 different items. So in those institutions, given your size of how big you guys are, I'm sure that happens too, right? That spend is then in essence going to be affected in other product categories because you've moved a portion of the business that maybe a minority business could in fact be able to do. So, and this actually came up at CVS, and I think what we proposed was, and what we've seen previously is, help us get in contact also with the vendors that you're working with. See, is there a way that we can partner also with them as well? In an instance like Medline, it's one of our biggest competitors, Medline Cardinal Health, right? They're distributors, manufacturers, they own the market space. How do you compete against them, But because there's X dollars that's being spent, we've proposed in those healthcare institutions that we're working with today, help us get in contact with, the folks at Medline and have them spend money with us, in some of those specific categories. Because at the end of the day, you're the customer. You have all the leverage in the world. So, I wanted to add that, going back to your question.
Great for the small business owner, not so great for those of us with federally mandated and regulated supplier diversity programs. And so I would charge that MBDs need to, if that's a marketplace that you want to tap into, partner with the MBDAs, partner with the Apex accelerators. They're charged, and they don't charge you a dime to help you get ready to sell your wares in the federal marketplace. So take advantage country is going to continue in its spot as an industrial force in the world. And I'm not going to go into politics, but there is a gap there that needs to be filled.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question.
I got one for you. So, I mean, it's true. We're all here singing the praises of Kidani and the team because they've been terrific for all of us, and they're willing to be terrific for all of you and those of us who aren't in the room today. So for you, Kidani, what's the most gratifying part of what you do for us?
I think you guys hear me say it all the time. I get to wake up and help someone make their dream come true, right? So, and that's huge. You know, I get to help us enter rooms where the faces in the room don't look like ours, right? So anytime I get to do that and I get to work with the great folks at G&E and at the MBDA, man, it's not work, right? I get paid, but it's not really work, and I appreciate it. So thank you all.
Thank you.